We're glad to have you joining us online today. Now, Vanity Fair described him as a spirit of promise and hope and harmony. Musician, activist, and entrepreneur, DNA, Derek Ashong.
Thank you, Shira, very much for the
Oh,
warm
it's
welcome.
so great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Now, she was on the MTV reality show Fresh Meat Challenge. That's a whole other conversation. And has become an inspiration for her courageous battle with ovarian cancer. Founder of MedGift.com, DM Brown. Woo! Just thought I'd add that in. And as always, being my knight in social media armor. From Chill.com, our social media correspondent, Mark Hustvedt.
Well, thank you, Shira. And remember, you too can be part of the discussion by joining the live chat on youtube.com/whatstrending or tweet us right now at whatstrending.
That is true. You got it. Derek, yes. DM. Ashong, so nice to see you. So
great to
Derek
be
and I
here.
go way back.
Yes.
And our shows, both our shows launched actually around the same time. Yours on Al Jazeera, the stream.
Exactly.
And What's Trending, people were like, I remember pitting us against each other even though we were so different.
Like the social media shows, I mean, is there a competition? We're like, we're all friends.
It's like saying there's two war TV shows or
Yeah.
hospital TV shows.
Yeah.
You know, they compete. It just happens because, you know, we're all trying to find a solution online.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was really cool actually seeing us both talking about these kinds of ideas and then seeing it come to fruition. And I suspect that you're actually going to find a lot of other media companies copying this kind of model because it's important to bring the voice of the web out to more people.
Definitely. Now you are going more to your roots, some of your music roots.
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently left the stream and I'm focusing on what I call an open source culture project. And it's called the Million Download Campaign. The vision is to give away 1 million free downloads of my latest album, Afropolitan, which people can get at www.derekashong.com. And they can download it for free. And the idea is download it. If you like it, share it with at least 10 other people. Now people ask, well, why would you do something like this? And you know, there are a couple of reasons. One of which is I feel like we're living in a world right now where there's so much going on. But when I turn on my radio, a lot of the music I hear doesn't really seem to be saying anything. And it's so interesting because historically, music has spoken to the needs and aspirations and feelings and caring of all kinds of people around the world. I look at the time when my parents grew up in the 60s and 70s and the music and the politics and the people were all together. And it wasn't like the music was all preachy. It was hot, it was sexy, it was fun. But now a lot of it is trivial. And part of that, I think, is because of the way the recording industry is structured. And it's not just an industry that sues fans for listening and downloading music, but it's also an industry that exploits artists. So this is a simple model on how do you turn some of that on its head. And people can go to the website, derekashong.com, and learn how we're turning it on its head, but most importantly, enjoy the music and share. And if this works, we'll not only make history, but we'll show a path for millions of other artists around the world.
That is so cool. It's all about disrupting the system for you.
Exactly. Always.
Paving the way, my friend. Now we also have someone else here that is paving her way online. We were all inspired in the green room talking about your site. It is so cool, and I'm so happy to have you here because what you're doing is revolutionary for the medical industry and healthcare.
Thank you. Yeah, I just realized when I had ovarian cancer that there was all these things that I needed. Like I needed help buying a wig. I needed help paying for groceries because when you have cancer or car accidents or any type of ailment, you can't really work. You can't really do the things that you need to do to kind of get your day-to-day things going. So I started looking at my girlfriends who were getting married and having babies, and I realized that when they celebrate their life celebration, their life milestone, having weddings, having babies, that there's a registry that you can be a part of that. Your friends and family can be a part of that opportunity. And they can go on their registries and get all these things for weddings and babies. But yet when a patient gets sick, it's like an isolation world. Like you feel so alone. So I wanted to create the first ever patient gift registry, which they can get their medical bills on there and people can give towards the medical bills. They can ask for groceries or even ask for like non-monetary things like, can you take me to and from the hospital? So it's really a solution for patients to not feel so alone, and their friends and family, because they're a part of it too, for them not to feel so alone that they're a part of their treatment.
I think this is so cool.
I think it's absolutely brilliant, and because there's been this whole dialogue around healthcare and healthcare reform, I think a project like yours should take center stage of like what real people are doing to really care about the patient themselves, which kind of gets lost in the conversation.
Yeah, and I feel the whole fact that you're young, you're a strong now entrepreneurial woman, the fact that you made something out of what you were going through.
To be honest, I've been doing it for 5.5 years, and it's my passion. Like I will do anything. I go to hospitals right now. I'm trying to sign up hospitals because that's how we verify patients. And so I'm going across the country doing my hardest. It's my heart and soul. Like when I say, what's funny is that a lot of our hospital leads have come from Twitter. Like, because of the MTV show, I had like MedGift on my arm, every challenge.
Okay. And
they're like, how can we help? I go, the way you can help is tell your hospital about MedGift. Because every hospital we've talked to about MedGift, they love it. So it's just telling your individual hospital about it, and it really does a massive amount of help.
One little thing that might be interesting is, I think a group where there's already a network of people that want to help each other, but they don't have the kind of structure you want, are mothers-to-be. And if you go to some of these mommy groups and say like, hey, you're gonna go and have a baby, this is something you should participate in. Those people spread the word like crazy.
Mommy bloggers? Oh yeah.
For sure.
All right, I'm going after you, mommy blogger.
Where are you? MedGift.com, definitely check it out. And let's move on to our first story of the day, shall we? All right, Tuesday marked 1 year since the raid on Osama Bin Laden's compound in Pakistan and the assassination of the Al-Qaeda leader. Once again, social media was the first to break the news. Well, many were watching the story unfold online instead of, huddled around the TV or radio like back in the day. And who could forget that viral picture posted to the White House Flickr account of his war room watching the raid unfold live? Now, Derek, I know you were probably covering this when this all happened and you had your show. So how did you find out about this?
I found out on Twitter because people were like, the president is about to speak. And we all started joking like, oh, he's about to speak at like 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. He must have got Bin Laden. And people were kidding. But
yeah.
It was kept going, and they were trying to keep it hush. The news media didn't want to say, but people were literally on Twitter saying like, this is about Bin Laden. It's got to be Bin Laden. So that's what people mean when they say Twitter broke the story. Like, it was pretty evident in the social media space what was going on before the mainstream media could really say it. And the thing that was intriguing is the next day was our first day on the air. And
really?
Yes, we had been on the web for 2 weeks pilot.
Way.
But that Monday, May 2nd, was our first day on the air, and we were debuting this new kind of show with these young hosts in 300 million households worldwide.
Al Jazeera.
On Al Jazeera's Sirius News channel. So we had to do our thing and really present ourselves well. And part of what happened that I think distinguished our coverage that day is there was a guy named
I'm saying this wrong. You know. Sohaib Attar.
Sohaib Attar, yes.
Yeah.
And
From
he
Abbottabad,
was from
yeah.
Abbottabad. His Twitter tag is really virtual. And we were the first network to get really virtual
tell this
on
story.
air.
I mean, people know that it was a guy locally, and he heard gunshots. Yeah. Or no, and he heard
he heard
helicopters,
and he started
roaming,
tweeting what he was hearing. He's like, I'm hearing these helicopters. I hear an explosion. I hear this. I hear more hell. He live tweeted what was happening without knowing what it was. And everyone's like, oh my God, where is he? So he got inundated with media.
I did. I emailed him. I was tweeting him.
It was bananas. And so we were all up the next morning like, we need to find really virtual. And our whole team is like, and one woman in particular, Melissa Jaimo, who was our interview producer, was talking to cats on the phone in Abbottabad, in Islamabad, all over, found a friend of a friend of a friend. We finally got him to show up at a local cafe and talk to us live on air about what he heard. But the power of it is looking at, where we've come with social media. Social media broke the story. This man inadvertently told the story while it was happening, and a social media show became the first to present his side of the story.
So many firsts. Now, how has life changed for you since that happened? I mean, did it change for you as an American? Yeah. What did this event represent?
Well, I randomly enough was at Stagecoach Music Festival, which is a country music festival, and Kenny Chesney told us that. And so all of a sudden you hear, woohoo! Like you hear these these rousing air.
Wow.
But it was funny because for me it was a mixed emotion because it's funny, like you're celebrating someone being dead, and then it's like it's that weird thing, like yes, it's a good thing, but then am I celebrating someone died?
That's what a lot of the GOP now are criticizing Obama, saying, oh, it's the anniversary and this is celebratory thing. And many people were saying that even when it happened a year ago.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of the GOP criticism of Obama has been sort of like defensive, because you haven't seen the administration celebrating it, but they're acknowledging it. Nobody was upset when George Bush commemorated what happened at 9/11. We have all kinds of commemorations around our military and national security issues, et cetera. So I think that if they were up on the front lawn of the White House having a barbecue, that might be offensive. I will say I agree with you, because when it happened, a lot of people were cheering in DC, and I wasn't cheering. I was at home and I was listening. I was really thinking about it because I lost a family member in 9/11. A lot of people don't know that. But I was like happy he was dead. And I had to ask myself, what have I ever been happy someone is dead? And I feel like, you know, those are some of the questions that are worth asking about our own humanity. You think you're a good person, you think you love society, etc. Some guy gets killed and you're like, yay, wait. And I hope that we reflect on that as well.
Definitely. Well, for more on this, and thank you for sharing that story. That's incredible. We go to our very special guest, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State who worked with President Obama from Washington, D.C., PJ Crowley. PJ, thank you so much for being with us today.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
And now, can you tell us where you were and how you found out that this happened? Maybe you found out before a lot of us common folk.
No, not at all. I had left government, and I found out about it on Twitter. So I'm just like the rest of you. And then obviously, you know, watch the president make the formal announcement, but it is obviously an indication of the world in which we live, that with the connectivity that we have around the world, what happens on a battlefield will be visible to far more people than has been the case in the past.
Were you surprised at how the White House reacted and used Twitter to, you know, share these pictures that would otherwise have been kept pretty private in the past?
Well, sure. And I think, you know, since the Bin Laden demise, we've obviously also seen the vital importance of social media in reporting what's been happening in the tragedy in Syria. Traditional media have been largely excluded from the major cities of Syria, and yet it's been the citizen journalists reporting, providing video that has enabled the international pressure that has been placed on the Syrian government. Obviously, you know, the situation is not yet resolved, but now you get to see, you know, the power of social media to be able to bring, you know, these kinds of events, you know, to the rest of the world in real time.
Definitely. Now, you tweeted at the time, and I hope this is your tweet. You know, once you tweet, it stays there, supposedly, right? Even if you delete it. But you tweeted, does Bin Laden's death matter? There are franchises around the world, but he was a majority unifying force. The movement now lacks a center. So have things changed in a year in your mind? And how would you guide Obama's administration on how to deal with al-Qaeda in Afghanistan now?
Well, it's a great question. You know, is the world safer with Bin Laden off the playing field? Absolutely. You know, he was the commander, the commander-in-chief of al-Qaeda. He was their senior operator. He was their voice and their face. He had the ability to captivate the world, and he was a genuinely global figure. Without him, al-Qaeda has lost much of its force, but not all of its power and influence. And as you say, you know, the core al-Qaeda that was responsible for the attacks of 9/11, probably they couldn't pull that off today. You know, their ranks and their capabilities have been much diminished over the past 10 or 11 years. But much of their operational activity has moved to these franchises in the Arabian Peninsula, in the Maghreb, in Somalia, potentially and dangerously in Nigeria. So the movement is very much alive, even though it's become much more diffuse than it was in 9/11 or before that.
And are you happy with how Obama's, you know, reacted over the year to all of this? Do you support how he's dealt with the situation?
Well, it is a major achievement, and you know, whether it would have been a Bush administration or an Obama administration, you know, obviously this is very significant, and the American people should take pride in what has happened. You know, I mean, I agree. It's something to note, not necessarily to celebrate, because the work is not done yet. I think people have to recognize that while we are definitely safer than we were 10 years ago, there are still dangers out there, and there are still people who are focused on attacking and killing people in the United States and the West.
I have a question, actually, if I can. On that front, PJ, so you're right, there are still dangers out there in the world, and President Obama gave a speech from Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan yesterday talking about this new agreement to remove our troops.
Agreement, quote unquote, which no one knows about.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll kind of see how it's implemented, but hopefully we're going to be drawing down significantly over the next few years. One of the things I wonder, though, is what have we learned from this? Because, as you mentioned, you've got these similar crises rising in Somalia. We've still got a situation in Yemen. You've got more radicalization in Nigeria. Have we learned something from Afghanistan that will dictate a different response the next time this happens? Because I'm assuming global terrorism is not going away, or will we be invading some other country sometime soon?
I hope not. I think it's a great question, central question. The agreement between Afghanistan and the United States is very important, and everyone's focused today on the politics of this, but the substance matters. Because when the war formally ends in 2014, there will still be work to do. And so, being able to continue to support Afghanistan, put pressure on safe havens in Pakistan that are still have many extremists there with their focus on the United States, the West, and South Asia as well, means the work is not done. If we have learned something over the last 10 years, when we invaded Iraq in 2003, which was put under this kind of umbrella of the war on terror, which was the Bush frame that it used, we played into Al-Qaeda's hands. We validated Al-Qaeda's narrative that they were holy warriors, and in fact, that the United States, they were the invading infidels, the crusaders occupying sacred Muslim land. We need to be used much more, discreet use of force, and also just develop relationships with countries and build up their capabilities to deal with extremists within their borders.
Well, PJ, thank you so much for joining us today and for your insights. I really appreciate it.
Shira, it's a pleasure anytime.
Oh, thank you. What a special guest to have here. Now, as Derek mentioned, in honor of the anniversary, President Obama made a surprise trip to Afghanistan to thank the troops, explaining that, quote, justice has been done. He live streamed that speech on the White House's YouTube channel, so you can check that out right now.